Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 21st Century June office hours. I want to begin by thanking you for taking time out of your schedules to join us for about an hour this morning. We may not use all of the time, but if we don't, then we will definitely be able to take questions and answer any questions anyone may have. As many of you are, if you haven't already started your summer, you are planning to start it in the next week or so. We will go ahead and get started. We have some people that are still joining, it appears, but we will go ahead and move through the presentation this morning. And for some of you, we are going to go through the GPRAs again that we did on last Friday because we were unable to record that session for you guys. So we are going to go through those again for anyone that may not been able to be on the call Friday. And then we are going to record it and then share it out with you so that you'll have it for your data team. All right, as you see our agenda, we have welcome and introductions, LDOE updates, the new GPRA measures, and then any discussion and questions that you may have around that. We were also able to get our colleagues over at CitySpan who work with youth services to come back on today. And so they will also do a demo as well with the information related to the GPRAs. So let's get started. All right, updates from LDOE. By now, all of your signed summer fieldwork that you have submitted that were due by May 21st should be resigned and returned to you. If you have not received your signed field trip forms back to you by this time, please send your program contact an email so that we can ensure that we get that information to you as soon as possible. A reminder that the fiscal year closeout is June 30th. Now, we know that this particular grant goes beyond 6/30, but as many of you all that have been around for a while know that we have to go through a fiscal year end closeout, and it pretty much shuts down any claims after July 15th until potentially mid-August. So we don't want anybody to be surprised by that. And we want you to know that any expenditures or anything you have purchased June 30th prior, make sure to get that claim in by July 15th. If you don't get that claim in by July 15th, you will still be able to submit it, but understand there will be a significant delay in the receiving those funds due to the state end of the year fiscal closeout. The new GPRA measures, again, we did a webinar on last Friday where we went through those GPRA measures, and youth services did a demo, and we're going to cover those slides again. And our next office hours, we are planning for August 5th, 2021 at 10 a.m. So we will not have a July office hours. That first Thursday, I think, is July 3rd. And many of you will be in the thick of summer programming, either on vacation or it'll just be a very busy time for you. So we are not going to have a July office hours. Our next office hours will be in August. All right, so let's jump back into the GPRA measures that we discussed. What are GPRAs? Government Performance Results Act. These measures have come as a result of that, and they are required outcomes that are reported to Congress once a year. And you typically report those in your 21 APR submission. The GPRAs help us to tell the 21st CCLC story more completely and at the national level. The 5 new GPRAs will help us tell the story more completely. And that is the reason that they shifted from, I think we had 10 or so other GPRAs. We didn't have to do all of them, but they shifted to giving us just 5, and we will have to report on these 5. So what changed? There's a reduction in the number of GPRAs. All students will be reported, not just the regular attendee. So as I mentioned before, the regular 30-day attendee is going away. That pretty much no longer exists. They are going to be looking at all students being reported. They do have some specific grade bands that they're going to look at, but relative to those grade bands, you won't have to worry about it being a regular attendee. And participation will be counted in hours and not specifically in days. So the 21 APR or the tactile group has communicated to us what those 21 APR hour bands would be. And that's what you see on the screen now. So you have less than 15 hours, more than 15, but less than 45, more than 45, but less than 90, more than 90, but less than 180, more than 180, less than 270, and more than 270. This is how you will report in the 21 APR system when we start reporting on the new GPRA measures. And again, this will be for all students or specific grade bands of students, not a regular 30-day attendee. All right, so let's take a look at the first GPRA measure, which is dealing with academic achievement. We're looking at the percentage of students in grades 4 through 8 participating in 21st CCLC programming during the school year and summer who demonstrate growth in reading and language arts on state assessments. And then you have the same GPRA measure for students in grades 4 through 8 participating in school year and summer who demonstrate growth in math on state assessments. The specific grade band that they're looking at for GPRA number 1 are going to be only students in grades 4 through 8. And we are defining growth as any improvement on state assessments from the prior year testing. Even if it's 1 percentage point, that is considered growth and that is considered an improvement. GPRA number 2, the percentage of students in grades 7 through 8 and 10 through 12 attending 21st CCLC programming during the school year and summer with a prior year unweighted GPA of less than 3.0 who demonstrated an improved GPA. The grade band here are only students in grades 7 and 8 and 10 through 12. And we are defining improved GPA as any GPA higher than the previous year's GPA. All right, GPRA measure number 3, we are looking at school day attendance. The percentage of students in grades 1 through 12 participating in 21st CCLC during the school year who had a school day attendance rate at or below 90% in their prior school year and demonstrated an improved attendance rate in the current school year. The grade band here is going to be all students in 1 through 12. And the definition of improved attendance rate is any improvement in the student's school day attendance rate. Example, moving from 86% to 90% attendance rate. That would be considered an improvement. GPRA 4 is around behavior. The percentage of students in grades 1 through 12 attending 21st CCLC programming during the school year and summer who experienced a decrease in school suspensions compared to the previous school year. The grade bands for only students 1 through 12 and decrease in in-school suspensions would be any decrease in in-school suspensions compared to the previous school year. The last GPRA is student engagement in learning. The percentage of students in grades 1 through 5 participating in 21st CCLC programming in the school year and summer who demonstrate an improvement in the teacher-reported engagement in learning. The grade bands, only students in grades 1 through 5. Improvement would be any growth a student has made. And engagement, we're looking at defined as homework completion, class participation, and student behavior. The LDOE will be working with youth services to upload the data for GPRAs 1 through 4. Once this step is complete, you will have access to the data to then report it in the 21 APR system. So in years past, you all have been responsible for collecting the GPRA data and then reporting it in the 21 APR. Well, because of the way that they have switched the GPRAs, and we knew that many of you would have great difficulty working with school systems to give you this type of data. And so, you know, we talked to our data team to see if this was data that we already collect. And it appears that we do collect this information. And so we are trying to work out a system by which we will gather this information from our data team, and then they will provide it to youth services, and youth services will then put that into the system where you all will be able to access it. The only GPRA that you will have a greater responsibility for will be GPRA number 5, the student engagement and learning. This will be collected via a teacher survey. So when they're looking at student engagement, they are linking it to the school day teacher, not a program person. So we want you to make sure that you're clear on that. This is linked to a school day teacher. So that is who will be taking the survey for the students. The teacher survey will be completed by the program participant's classroom teacher, only for students in grades 1 through 5. So this is not all students. This is grades 1 through 5. The survey is only 3 questions, and you can access it in youth services. And again, once Shamela is on the line, and she will do a demo of where to find the survey. And so you'll be able to see that it is actually in youth services now for you. Once you retrieve the survey from youth services, you disseminate it to the classroom teachers of your grades 1 through 5 students. Then you will report that information back in youth services, so the results will be there. So GPRA 5, this is where you will be doing most of the work for the new GPRAs. You will have to pull down the survey, disseminate the survey, and then put the results in youth services. And again, Shamela is going to provide you with the demo of what that looks like and where to find the survey. All right. We have always collected parental consent for 21st century programs. When you're registering students and parents fill out their information packets, you should have been collecting parental consent for data that we have to use for the program. So if you recall, make sure I sent you an updated parental consent form on 4/20. Make sure you are using that parental consent form because it hits all of the data points that we need to be covered because we are collecting this data in a system. We talked last time about the SSNs, or the unique student IDs, which is 10 digits, which will now be required for each participating student. And I mentioned to the group that I was going to go back to our data team and try to get a response from them on whether any other unique ID would work. They have not responded to me yet, so we are following up on that. And as soon as we know, we will let you know. But as far as we know as of now, it has to be that 10-digit unique student ID so that it can link to our system so that our data team can find the student and the information that's needed for those students on the state assessments and on the behavior data, on the in-school suspensions, and so on. All right, so the plans for summer 2021. This summer, we will begin collecting the new GPRA measures while at the same time preparing to report school year 2020-2021 GPRAs. This summer, we will begin collecting program attendance and hours. This is the first step in the adoption of the new GPRA measures. This does not change how you will report attendance. There will be a report that will be generated to obtain student participation in hours. So you don't have to change anything that you're doing in youth services, but we do want you to be a little bit more diligent about how you assign the times to your classes, because we will be generating a report that will give us the hours of students' participation versus the days of their participation. So let me make sure that we're clear here. So beginning, we're already, I would say, in summer 2021. So these new GPRAs take effect now, but you also know that we don't report on the GPRAs until the end of the next school year. So the next reporting window that's going to open for 21 APR will be for the school year we just finished, 2020, 2021. And that will be reported on the old GPRAs, the normal way that you're reporting your information. These new GPRAs, even though that we're going to start collecting the information now, you will not report on them until after the 21-22 school year. So next summer, we'll get the new plans for summer 2022, and the tactile group will let us know what the new reporting windows will be, but those will be related to the new GPRAs that we just discussed. All right, so before I turn things over to our colleagues with youth services, I just want to pause for a moment and see if there are any questions that anyone might have relative to any deadlines, due dates, the GPRAs, or anything else before we move into the demo. All right, it doesn't look like we have any questions at this time. Shamela, I just made you co-host so that you are able to share your screen and bring up the youth services information.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Shamila. I am the project manager for the Louisiana State 21st Century Online Data Management System through CitySpan. And so I just want to take a few moments to go over um, some of the topics in CitySpan related to the items that Kenya just discussed. So where you would go in CitySpan to make sure that all the information for the students is up to date, so that we can get her the data that she needs in order to obtain some of these new data points for the GPRA measure. So the first thing that I want to point out is when you log into the system and you see the participants and staff screen, we've made a few updates. And so now when you go to click on Add Person, and then you select Youth Participants, so some of the updates that we've made, as Kenya mentioned, is now we do require at least one identifier. So before you were actually able to create a student record without having one of these identifiers inputted, but going forward, you will need to input at least one identifier, whether that be the social security number or the unique student ID, the state ID, the 10-digit ID that's available. We've also made birth dates required. So everything on the screen here is required. For the identifier, only one of the two are required. So I'm going to go ahead and create a record and show you what the validation looks like if you try to add a student without the information. So if I click on add here, you'll see before being able, you would be able to proceed. Now it tells you that these fields are required and you need to input them prior to saving the form. So we'll go ahead and input the rest of this information. And then, there you go. And then click on add person. So now it says that the record has been successfully registered. To view the record, click on view record. And this will take you to the youth registration form as you would see it before with the required fields filled in. And now you should be able to navigate between the pages. As you see, there are additional required fields, but these other fields you can still navigate throughout the record without having to input the data because we know that that might not be readily available. But in order to create a record going forward, you do need first name, last name, birth date, and one of these identifiers. So the very top section here is required. So if I clicked on save here, you could see it will tell you that there's additional required fields. So these are part of the 21st century reporting. But again, it says values are not required prior to saving the form. So you will be able to navigate away from form 1 to form 2 and proceed that way. Now, for existing records that you have in the system that might not have a that data point inputted, I wanted to show you what that looks like. So if I went into a existing record, so let's say I went into Cheryl here. Um, so let's say that she didn't have one of these indicators inputted. She just has her first name, last name, and her birth date. So I can click on, if I wanted to go ahead and click on save, you'll see that the message at the top will say you must enter one identifier to proceed. And the difference here is you cannot actually go to form 2 until you enter the identifier. So it's very important to populate the data for your existing participants. And we are working on a report that will give you a list of all your participants that are missing the identifier. So you'll have that report available and you'll be able to just log in and populate the IDs for those students. Okay, so that covers, I think, the updates that we've made to the youth record in regard to the requirements so that we can provide the state team with the data point that they need in order to give us data on behavior and suspensions and all that, the GPRA measures that we need data for now going forward. So that's the first part. And then the second item that I wanted to cover, and it's not much of a change, it's more so it's just something that we'd like you to pay extra attention to when you are setting up your activities, because now that the GPRA measure requirement, they've changed to hour bands instead of the day requirement of 30 days or more. When you set up your activity, we just want to make sure that when you go in to create an activity, so if you click on create activity, they create a test activity here. Um, the one thing that you really want to pay special attention to is the schedule. And so when you click edit next to the schedule and you're adding a new schedule, so let's say you add multiple dates to this schedule, everything is the same in regards to what you put in for the begin date and the end date. What we really want you to pay attention to is the begin time and the end time, because this will be pulling into a new APR report that we'll be creating. So the hours that the student attends is going to be based on the schedule of the activity. So if you set up the activity from 10 to 5, it'll count that 7-hour period for that student. So let's say this is like, 10 to 5 service or whatever time it may be. Just be very particular about what the schedule is and making sure that it's accurate in accordance with the activity and that's taking place. So let's say this is for Monday, Tuesdays, 10 to 5, and then I click on add multiple dates. And here you can see it set up the schedule as it would have in the past. And then you just want to keep track of if there's minimum days or shorter days where the activity is not taking place for the full duration, you can update that time here. So if you click on time, you'll see that those fields become editable and you can make changes. So if it's a shorter day, you can click on the new time and save and return. And here you'll see that the time is updated for the specific date that I made the change for. And so that's one of those things that we really want you to keep an eye out for, just making sure that when you set up the schedule, it's accurate in regards to the begin and end time that you're selecting for the activity. And then in relation to that, the attendance for the students, I'm going to go ahead and enroll some students here into this activity so that I can show you the attendance page. Okay, so we have everybody enrolled in this activity. So when you go to take attendance, this functionality has always been in place, but we just again want to point out the functionality so that you can pay extra attention to when you are taking attendance. So when you go into this date here, you'll see that the options are available for marking students present, in person versus virtual, and then marking absent. once you mark the attendance, the begin and end time become editable. And so if a student is leaving early or arriving late, you have the ability to change the times here. So if I wanted to say that Aaron Blake didn't actually show up at 10, I can click on the time and here it becomes editable. So if I went and put the actual time that he showed up, I can change that here. Or if he left early, if he's only there for 2 hours, we can make that adjustment here. And then once you make that adjustment, the reports will pull specifically the number of hours that each student attended, as opposed to just defaulting to this beginning and end time of the service. So again, this is just, it's been in place, but we just want to emphasize that the functionality is here and available. And the reason that we're emphasizing it now is because of the change from where before they would just need to count 30 days or more for the APRs, but now the GPRA measure is switching over to hours that students have attended. And so this will help with the accurate reporting of the hours for student attendance. And Kenya, feel free to add anything before I move on to surveys, but otherwise I can go ahead and keep going.
Yeah, I think you covered it, just making sure that it's even more important now to make sure that the hours and the times that are represented are true and correct, so that the data pulled can be the best data possible.
Correct. Okay, so next I'm going to go ahead and move on to the teacher survey that is the last GPRA measure, which you will be using the system to go ahead and fill out the teacher survey that the teacher will be completing. So we have a surveys left menu here. When you click it, you'll see all the surveys that have been completed in the system. I believe the current term is set through to June 30th. And so on July 1st, we usually reset the current term. So you probably won't see anybody and then you could change the current term to all to see historic surveys. We never delete anything from the system. It just archives the view. So to show you how to create a survey for those that have not used the system to create a teacher survey before, you select Add Survey on the top right of the screen. You go ahead and select Teacher Tactile Group Survey. And then here you'll see a list of all your active participants from your participants and staff list. So if you have the survey that you had distributed to the teacher and the teacher collected the information and returned it to you, you would go ahead and select the name of the participant that the teacher took the survey for, and then I'm sorry, the teacher completed the survey. So you click on the participant's name that they're completing it for, click on the date of the survey, so whichever date that they completed it. And it's just these 3 questions. So if they've shown improvement in homework completion, in class participation, and student behavior. So those are the 3 responses that are needed. And then you can go ahead and proceed to complete additional surveys by doing save and enter another, or you can do save and return if you wanted to go back to the main screen. But if you have like a batch of surveys that you wanted to complete at once, this is a nice way to do it one by one without having to go into the student record for each student. So I can go ahead and move on to my next student, select their name, the date of the survey that the teacher completed, and then the responses, and then save and return. And once you put that in, you'll see the date will appear here for whoever you completed the survey for. This is sorted by participant name. So here I completed the one for Erica and then for Vanessa. And then we do have a report already in place for the teacher survey under APR reports here. And then it does more of like aggregate data in regards to how many students improved and then, or I can show you what that looks like. It's all related to attendance. So students that have attendance during the period and a teacher survey entered will be included on the report. And then this section here, we will be updating with any new guidance that we received in regards to what the GPRA reports are going to look like for new measures. So you can look forward to seeing that as we have that information available. So a lot of changes and new things coming your way in regards to those things.
All right, Shamela, we have a question in the chat box that is
Sure.
asking about, it states that when we enter attendance by group, there is not a virtual spot to click. Can that be corrected in the system?
Yeah, currently the virtual update was made to when you take attendance by activity, when you take attendance by date, I believe as well, because it's a single page. The problem with the group is because there's you can link multiple activities to a group, and so I think the cutoff is difficult for them to. Let me go ahead and see if I can get into one here. So here, it's more difficult to do the two present because you can have a number of activities. This only has one linked, but you're able to link up to like 5, I believe. And so when you do that, it kind of squishes the page. And so on a technical perspective, it's harder to do that. I have put in that request. And so they said they try to optimize that if that's something that they can do. But it's kind of a lower priority because the other methods allow you to take attendance via activity or by date. But the group page is a little bit more difficult because it allows users to take attendance for multiple activities at once.
Right, totally understand that. Okay.
Mm.
I don't think we have any, other questions in relative to the system, but there's a question about claims. You stated that claims were due by July 15th for all expenses through June 30th. For July purchases, is the last claim deadline for the year to be August 15th? No, that is not the case. We have not given you a last claim deadline for the year. This particular contract goes through August 31. So that has not been any information that we've communicated yet. And once we receive it, we will communicate that. This is only relative to, and the only reason we give you this information and suggest that you have a claim in by July 15th for all things before June 30th is because there is a significant delay in processing claims once the fiscal team shuts down for the year-end fiscal closeout. It probably will be 2 months before you can get a claim if you don't make a claim by July 15th. So not to say you have to do it. It is just strongly encouraged, especially if you're a situation where you have a cash flow issue and you can take a 2 to 3 month delay, because that is what the result has been over the past few years. Now, again, those that have done this for a while, they know that lag exists. But for new programs, it may be something new for you, and I don't want you to get caught in a situation where you're unprepared. All right. All right, thank you, Shamela. I think that was a great overview. Are there any other questions around the youth services system or any other questions just programmatically that you would like responses? All right. It doesn't look like we have any other questions. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much. Wait, let's see. Hold on just a second. With more of our partners having summer programs, we're having trouble getting food service at some of our programs. I would say, Chandler, send me an email or your program contact and email so that we could potentially have a discussion. I know with the influx of summer programs this summer, a lot of things are more difficult than many anticipated. And so we will just have to see if that's something that we can work through.
I did see a question about the school attending function. Did you want
Yeah,
me
go
to
ahead.
go over that? Okay.
Yeah.
The question is, the school attending function does not work for one of my schools. And so just keep in mind, so that's talking about this functionality here where you can assign a school to your site for the specific student. So let's say we wanted to say which school Samantha Adams is attending. So if you're not seeing the school listed here, and you need to add that school to the dropdown. The way you do that is through the partners left menu. So we have a partners left menu that you click on. If you click on view all partners, it shows all the schools listed. If you click on add partner, you will be able to add the school by typing in the school name. And then in order for it to appear in that dropdown, you have to select either host school or feeder school. So that's important. If you don't select that, it's not going to show up in the dropdown. So once I do that and click on create, just do other. And then if I go back into the youth record, it should function so that you are able to select the new school attending that you've added. So here I've added test school and now I see it in the list. So just be aware to select host school or feeder school in the partners drop down or option. Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Hopefully that answers her question and she's able to do that.
All right. Thank you so much for that. All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time today and you all being able to be on the office hours with us. We don't have any other questions in the chat box, so I will give you some time back in your day today and we will work on getting this recording approved and sent out to you so that you can have access to it. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Have a great day. Thank you. Take care. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.